arrived in São Paulo a few weeks before.
I can get you work, Max. Work that only a guy like you can do.
I ain't a cop no more. I was working a protection detail for the kind of people who need protection in a town like this.
This is São Paulo, brother. It's kind of fun, good pay. We keep people safe.
It wasn't pretty, but I guess none of what was about to happen was gonna be.
When Max Payne 3, the continuation of the cult series, hit the market in 2012, players were divided into two camps. On one side, there was a wave of excitement. After 8 long years, the hero who had defined the third-person shooter genre was finally returning. On the other side, there were doubts. Development had been taken over by Rockstar Games, best known for series like GTA and Red Dead Redemption, while the original creators at Remedy Entertainment had parted ways with the franchise. The question was clear: would the new Max Payne still be the same cynical, uncompromising anti-hero we loved, or just another action figure in a hail of gunfire? Fortunately, Max Payne 3 proved that even after so many years it was possible to create a game that honored the roots of the series while also pushing it forward. Rockstar may have changed the setting, the atmosphere, and the pacing, but they also delivered a story that is more personal, darker, and psychologically crushing than ever before. To be honest, I only played Max Payne 3 a few years later, because back then I didn't have a computer powerful enough to run it. My old PC was so weak that the game wouldn't even launch. Those were the days when not everyone had a high-end rig like today. But in 2014, when I finally got myself a proper computer, I could at last play the new Max Payne, and I still remember that moment vividly. I was incredibly excited to start the game, and I fell in love with it from the very first minutes. That's why in this review I want to explain why it is a must-play masterpiece for every gamer. The story takes place several years after the events of the second game. Max is a broken man, without a family, without a job, drowning in alcohol and painkillers. He has traded the dark streets of New York for the sunny yet equally rotten environment of São Paulo, Brazil, where he works as a bodyguard for the wealthy Branco family. From the very first moments it becomes clear that he has ended up in an even worse situation than ever before. Kidnappings, gangs, corruption, and politics form a tangled web in which Max gradually realizes he cannot trust anyone. Rockstar masterfully captures the contrast between luxury and squalor. On one side we see extravagant parties of billionaires, while just a few blocks away there is the poverty and violence of the favelas. This clash of worlds serves as the backdrop for Max's personal journey, from a man who had long since given up to someone trying once again to find meaning in fighting against injustice. The storytelling is typically Payne-esque. The game makes use of the protagonist's inner monologues, in which he sarcastically comments on his own mistakes and the world around him. These inner thoughts are raw, cynical, yet also deeply human, exposing Max's pain. Rockstar also experimented with a distinctive visual style. Cutscenes are often fragmented with visual filters, glitch effects, and color transitions, underscoring Max's intoxication and psychological decline. Max Payne 3 remains true to the core principle of the series. It is a third-person action shooter centered around bullet time, the slow-motion mechanic used during gunfights. This feature was revolutionary back in the first game, and even years later it still works brilliantly. In Max Payne 3 it is implemented even more smoothly. The player can perform a so-called shoot-dodge in any direction, aiming and mowing down enemies mid-air while the camera stylishly follows every impact. Another key element is the cover system. Rockstar took inspiration from modern shooters and added the ability to take cover behind obstacles. Unlike many other games, however, Max Payne 3 doesn't encourage players to stay hidden. The shootouts are brutal, fast-paced, and often force you into risky movements. Enemies aren't dumb, they flank, throw grenades, and take advantage of the environment. This means that even with bullet time, the game is demanding and punishes mistakes. A trademark of the series is also healing through painkillers. There is no automatic health regeneration, which makes the game more challenging and gives it the old-school feel. Players have to carefully manage their supplies, otherwise even a small skirmish can end in death. Rockstar wasn't afraid to change the setting either. Instead of the dark streets of New York, we now find ourselves in favelas, nightclubs, docks, and luxurious mansions. Each location has its own unique atmosphere and forces the player to adjust their tactics. Thanks to this variety, the game feels diverse and never falls into monotony. From a technical standpoint, Max Payne 3 was one of the most visually impressive action games of its time. Character animations are highly detailed, and the gunplay feels extremely realistic. Bullets tear apart pieces of furniture, sparks fly from walls, and blood stains the floors. Motion capture gives the shootouts a cinematic quality, with the camera often zooming in dynamically on the final enemy kill in slow motion, creating the feel of a Hollywood action movie scene. The soundtrack was composed by the band Health, who gave the music a raw, electronic edge. The score is subtle yet perfectly amplifies the tension, ranging from slow, oppressive tracks to frantic beats during intense firefights. The sound design overall is excellent, weapons have a heavy, realistic punch, and James McCaffrey's voice performance as Max is absolutely phenomenal, adding remarkable depth to the character. On PC, the game offered a wide range of graphical options, including support for DirectX 11 and high-resolution textures. Optimization was surprisingly solid, which isn't always the case with Rockstar titles. On the consoles of the time, PS3 and Xbox 360, the game ran steadily, though naturally at lower quality. In addition to the single-player campaign, Max Payne 3 also introduced multiplayer, which was a first for the series. It featured classic modes such as deathmatch and team battles, but with the unique addition of bullet time, which worked in an interesting way, slowing down time only within a certain radius around the player. While the multiplayer wasn't bad, it never became the game's main attraction and faded into obscurity after a few years. Max Payne 3 is an exceptional work that deserves its place among the best action games of the past decade. It delivers a raw, emotionally charged story that shows the hero at rock bottom while still giving him a chance at redemption. The gameplay remains rooted in the iconic bullet time mechanic, but is enriched with modern features. Its audio-visual presentation is brilliant, and the atmosphere is unforgettable. The only weaker aspect might be its high degree of linearity. The game leads you by the hand and leaves little room for freedom, which stands in contrast to the open worlds we usually associate with Rockstar. However, this doesn't make it any less valuable. On the contrary, thanks to its precise direction and cinematic execution, Max Payne 3 plays out like a gripping thriller that maintains its intensity from start to finish. Max Payne 3 is a worthy conclusion to the trilogy and proves that even in the era of modern shooters, the old school still has its place. If you enjoy dark stories, intense action, and heroes who aren't black and white, this game is one you definitely shouldn't miss. That's why I have to give this installment a solid 8 out of 10, a must-play for every gamer who appreciates top-tier gunplay and a gripping narrative.